So I want to talk to you guys today about a very important question. What is it that makes people change the way they think? So I'm a novelist with a background in anthropology, as you just heard, and I've always been fascinated by this question. Now, I think we can all agree what the answer's not. And it is not facts and rational arguments, right? Because if it was, talking about politics wouldn't make us want to crawl under our desks and hide. But profound transformations do happen. And anybody in this room who cares about social change, I think there are probably more than a few of us who do, should also care about what it is that actually makes that possible. So, a few years ago, to try to better understand this, I spent several months in the field studying the social lives of paranormal investigators, ghost hunters. For those of you who aren't familiar, ghost hunters investigate reported hauntings to try and figure out first, is there a natural explanation for what's going on here? And if there isn't, then they try to collect evidence of this paranormal activity using all kinds of equipment, from electromagnetic field detectors and night vision video cameras to attacks of the goosebumps. So most ghost hunters believe in ghosts, but they don't always start out that way. So what is it about ghost hunting that has the power to turn a skeptic into a believer? The answer to that question is that ghost hunting, as it happens, taps into two of our most fundamental cognitive resources, the resources that actually do have the power to change the way we see the world. First, ghost hunting is a group activity. You don't go ghost hunting by yourself. No. Every horror movie ever teaches us that would be a terrible idea. You do this with a team, and while you are sitting there in these dark rooms for hours and hours and hours and hours waiting for something to happen, you are also building relationships with your fellow investigators. You're getting to know them and to care about them. And relationships are magic bullets for changing minds. We humans, guys, we are social animals. We are adapted to work together in groups, and part of this adaptation is that we have a reflexive, not rational, tendency for us to adjust our way of thinking about the world to be compatible with the people that we're close to or that we look up to or respect. Second, ghost hunting elicits strong emotions, right? Imagine spending your Saturday nights hanging around in a spooky, abandoned insane asylum. That sounds relaxing, right? No. Ghost hunting is incredibly intense and scary, and it's so much fun. Your adrenaline is running so hot that if the door creaks downstairs, you are jumping out of your skin. Now, emotion is intimately tied to how our memory works. It's like this synaptic cement, right? It just sears what would otherwise be a one-off connection into your brain and makes it stick. I'm assuming that everybody in this room right now remembers where you were on September 11th, right? Or that time that you got lost on the beach when you were a kid? Or maybe the last 3 minutes of the 2004 World Series? These experiences are burned into our brains because through each one of them, your emotions were on fire. This is why skeptics that go ghost hunting, even if they start out just trying to prove everybody wrong, rarely stay skeptical for long. This growing closeness that they form with a new tribe exerts a psychological pressure to open up the way they interpret the world, and getting scared makes that experience stick in their minds. Humans, guys, we are experts at ignoring the facts that don't agree with our existing point of view. Really good at it. But form relationships, strong relationships with people that think differently than you do, and share intense emotional experiences with them, and you might just find yourself seeing things in a whole new way. And anthropologists and psychologists, we've seen this happen with a lot more than just ghost hunting groups. It's happening with English witchcraft practitioners, Papua New Guinean cargo cults, Western environmentalists, American college students in psych labs. But what does this have to do with us and this current political climate that we're in of seemingly impenetrable opposing views? Well, if you guys want to change minds, you got to build relationships and share emotional experiences. But I'm guessing there probably aren't too many of you here who have the time or the inclination to go ghost hunting with every single climate change denier. Clearly what we need here is a way to scale this up, right? And change more than one mind at a time. And thankfully, there is a solution. Telling stories. Stories are part of humanity. We've been telling them for as long as we've been hanging around in groups. And as it happens, stories tap into exactly the same cognitive resources we've been talking about. First, stories build relationships. This is how they work. How many of you can name a character that you know as well as your best friends, right? I know that Fox Mulder never got over the disappearance of his sister, loved sunflower seeds, and would have been an absolutely awful boyfriend. Our brains don't care that these aren't real people. The relationships that we form with the characters that inhabit our favorite stories still have the power to impact the way we think, as do the emotional experiences that we share with them. Thelma and Louise sharing a kiss before they floor it over the edge of a cliff, right? Éowyn raising her sword before the king of the Nazgul telling him, "I am no man." You are present in those moments, cognitively speaking. They are eliciting real emotions with all the power of that electricity to reshape the pathways of your brain. Now, obviously, not all stories accomplish this. And unfortunately, there's not an easy recipe for what makes a story not only effective in that it elicits these strong emotions and makes you care about its characters, but also viral so that it finds its way into the hands and eyes of masses. I mean, if there were, I wouldn't be giving you this talk right now because I'd be off having tea and biscuits with J.K. Rowling and Dan Brown. But each of us storytellers strives for this every time we set our fingers to a keyboard. And because we don't know which story is going to be the one to break out, we all, regardless of our medium, have a responsibility to think about the greater potential impact of what we write. Now, I'm a feminist. I know I'm not supposed to use dirty words up here, so sorry. I believe strongly in the struggle for women's rights, and I believe that that struggle, that we have had so many successes, is far from over. And a couple weeks ago, when I saw Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman throw off her disguise and stride out of that trench into no man's land, I fell apart. Because it's rare. It's still an anomaly to see a grown woman be the hero in a story where she isn't just fighting to survive or looking for love. I spend a lot of time hanging out in the 19th century because I write historical fiction, so I'm immersing myself in how the people of our past thought, and I can tell you that the same tropes, the same quiet old assumptions still find their way into so many of our stories today. That women are inherently more nurturing and compassionate than men, that monogamous love and a romantic relationship, presumably as a prelude to making babies, this is our true destiny, that we're less rational, that we're physically weaker and in need of a big, strong man to rescue us. But here is the thing. Every storyteller, regardless of whether you are scribbling comic books or directing blockbusters, has the power to turn disbelievers into believers, just like those ghost hunters. We have this unique ability to reach into the minds of millions, tap into their most essential cognitive resources, and open up the way they see the world. Now, as Spider-Man's Uncle Ben tells us, with great power comes great responsibility. Because we have this power, each of us creatives has a duty to think critically about the culture we reproduce in our art. Now, that is not easy. It is, in fact, deeply unsettling to question whether your ideas about gender, class, race, diversity, right and wrong, good and evil aren't actually natural truths, but culture. And not only that, but relics of a culture that legitimized discrimination and oppression. But storytellers have many of the traits that make for great anthropologists. We're critical thinkers. We are wildly imaginative. And I honestly believe that we have this capacity not only to recognize those old tropes for what they are, but to imagine new possibilities and embody them in what we write. We can conceive of the way the world could be and move our readers and our audiences to take a step toward it. And if we succeed, if skill and talent and luck come together with the right wild ideas, then we could just change the world. Thank you.